if people are not utilizing any ways, any forms of addressing their families, which I honestly think is a majority of the department. And we kind of saw it in our poll, right? Word of mouth. Word of mouth is really just kind of like, oh, some people know, some people don't. If people ask the right people, they hear about it, right? But if people ask the wrong people, they don't hear about it. And I do think this is the most common. So I think the poll kind of matches up with that. This is the most common way of providing information, and it's ineffective, right? Because we don't know who needs that information. And the hardest time to ask for that information is when you need it. Because when I need it and I need help and we're struggling, now asking for it, I feel like everyone's going to know that I need it. People need it beforehand when they don't need it. They need access to it. They need the information. They need the resources so that when they do need it, it's easy. It's already right here. I don't even have to go ask anyone. It's right here for me. So they don't delay care and they don't feel exposed if they ask for it. If you're not providing this, though, what I'll say is like, I really see this as a missed opportunity. And here's a couple of reasons why. Spouses at home see things, right? And they don't know what to make of those things if we're not providing them with useful information based on their life and circumstances. So say they see their officer, firefighter, their EMT come home, they're detached, they're tuned out, they're unmotivated, they're socially isolated, right? Without context of what that means, any information on, okay, what is going on here, right? They might not connect that back to the job, right? It's about us. Is this about us, our marriage? Is this about our family? You don't want to be a part of this family anymore. You're really excited when you're at work, and yet you come home and you're completely tuned out, right? That's actually a really common experience, I think, for families. Do they know about, Dr. Gil Martin talking about the hypervigilance biological roller coaster? Or biologically, you're up against some things. When the first responders at work, high adrenaline, right? Hypervigilance. They got to be on. They got to stay tuned in. When they get off work, immediately there's going to be this, like, their body has to overcompensate. It needs to come back. It needs to rest. It kind of goes into this mode that if you don't know anything about that as a spouse, you take that very personally because it feels like it's about us, right? You can see how that can come up, and it can cause more serious challenges within the relationship. And obviously, relationship problems are definitely going to affect the officer, the firefighter, the first responder, and you will bring that back to work. When there are family problems, it is hard to focus, right? We're all consumed by what's happening in our most important relationships. And worse, say a first responder is actually really struggling, right? Suffering from something like trauma or depression, and the spouses and other family members that they're around decide, well, this must be a normal part of the job. Maybe this is normal, right? And the first responder is saying, nothing's wrong. It's just work, right? So again, we're missing something here. And obviously it is so important and critical to us nowadays to identify things early, right? We're trying to prevent suicide. We're trying to address depression and PTSD early so that it's not taking away from the lives of our first responders, from their careers, their jobs, right? I see spouses as like the smoke detector. They're going to be the first ones to identify this. First responders can go to work and say, I'm good. People go, how are you doing? Are you okay? Yeah, good. And they can brush it off. But at home, you can't. You can't hide it. Spouse is going to be the first to know. They're drinking more. They're having panic attacks. They're not sleeping. They're shut down. They're not talking to anybody. They're different. You can't hide those things when you live in the same house. You sleep next to them, right? It's really hard. You could, but it's hard to hide those things. So if the spouse is the first one to notice these things, and we're not providing them with good information on what are the signs and symptoms to look out for, what can you do? What does your department have access to? What is covered? What is free and available to you as a family? What would we like you to do to reach out? If they don't know what to do with that, it's a completely missed opportunity. We're missing this massive resource that the department has actually at their fingertips to support their personnel. This is what we're talking about. We're stronger together. How do you incorporate family? This is part of supporting your personnel, would be equipping their families with some information, because for free, they are very interested in keeping your employees healthy, well, and be able to last through retirement.